President, we have known for years that big tech puts profit over our children's safety. Every parent will tell you this is an issue of concern for them. Now, in the case of Meta, it has become clear that the tech giant is more interested in making a buck off of our kids than protecting them from predators, pedophiles, traffickers, and abusers. On Tuesday, the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Privacy, Technology, and the Law, which I chair, heard from two courageous former Meta employees who spoke about a deeply disturbing culture of deception at the company. They were among 6 whistleblowers, including 2 whistleblowers who currently work for Meta. Now, these whistleblowers are sounding the alarm, and thank goodness they are courageous and they are stepping forward to help protect our children. Now, their testimony included hundreds of pages of internal Meta documents, and this shows just how far Mark Zuckerberg has been willing to go to bury evidence showing that his platforms actually harm children. As I said, hundreds of pages of documents that show us and bear out how far Mark Zuckerberg will go to bury the evidence that his platforms harm children. 2 of the whistleblowers are former safety researchers for Meta. As part of their job, they would meet with families who used Meta products, which included Facebook and Instagram. Through their research, they hoped to learn how safe these products truly are. But as soon as they conducted the interviews and went through the process of reporting, what they figured out, Meta only hired them to check a box and appear as if the company was doing something about children's safety. While researching children's experiences on Meta's virtual reality headsets, they spoke with a family who revealed that one of their preteen sons had been sexually propositioned numerous times by sexual predators in the company's metaverse. Now think about this. These predators, who were virtual strangers, were going up to this child in virtual reality, and they were trying to groom him. Can you imagine if this was allowed to occur in the physical space? When it launched in 2021, Zuckerberg said that, and I'm going to quote from him, "In the metaverse, you'll be able to do almost anything you can imagine," end quote. Apparently, that included preying on children. For the child who is using the headset and in virtual reality, it's as if they are talking directly to the predator. We know that the physical and physiological impact and the psychological impact on children is no different as if it occurred in person. There is plenty of research that bears this out. Now, this shocking information would cause any responsible company to reevaluate their product and try to figure out how to stop this from happening. But after the interview with the family, the whistleblower supervisor, get this, the supervisor ordered them to delete the audio recording and the written records about what the child had experienced. The child admitted they were propositioned numerous times Meta didn't want to know that, and they were so offended by this because it might hurt their profit that they told the researchers to delete the audio recording of the child admitting this, and then to expunge the written records about what the child experienced. Unfortunately, what we have learned, this is not a one-off. According to the whistleblower's testimony, this suppression of damaging information is the norm at Meta. Starting in 2021, the whistleblowers alleged that Meta directed its legal team. Think about this. The C-suite is ordering the legal team to review any internal research about youth safety in virtual reality. In some cases, they killed research that documented how Meta is exposing children to harm. So they know it. They don't want you to know it. How dare a parent have what they want to protect their child? So they want to just sweep it away. The reason they did this was simple. Meta's executives wanted to eliminate any evidence that they would require them to take an action to protect children. In the words of Meta's lawyers, they needed to, and I quote, establish plausible deniability, end quote. So in one case, Meta's lawyers advised that, and I quote again, due to regulatory concerns, end quote, the researchers should avoid collecting any information about how many children were using Meta's virtual reality devices. On paper, Meta said that children under the age of 13 were not allowed to use the devices. But in practice, employees estimated that some virtual rooms were up to 90% underage. One employee documented a time where they observed 3 children between the ages of 6 and 7 who were chatting with a much older man who was asking them where they lived. These are babies. They have on the Oculus headset. They are in virtual reality. They have their avatar. They think they're playing, but they're chatting with an avatar that's not a child. It's not a child their age. It is an avatar that is an older man, and he is trying to figure out where they lived. Now, the employee told Meta they knew that these were young children based on the sound of their voice. Yet, what did the company officials try to do? They tried to suppress this, to sweep it under the rug, to keep people from knowing this was happening. Meta executives told the researchers that they shouldn't refer to kids on the platform. Instead, they were told to refer to them as, get this, alleged minors with young-sounding voices who may be underage. Again, that is a direct quote. So let me ask you this. Does this sound like a company concerned about how its platforms expose children to predators and pedophiles? Or does it sound like a company that is doing everything possible to cover up this horrific abuse? With Meta and other tech platforms, we've seen this negligence over and over and over. Indeed, I have talked on this floor many times about this issue. Senator Blumenthal and I have talked tirelessly about this issue as we've held hearing after hearing. With their algorithms that the tech firms use, that Meta is using, What they are doing is creating what one of the researchers referred to as a playground for pedophiles. That's really sad. In the physical space, you'd be locked up for doing that. With their algorithms, they connect children with pedophiles, with drug dealers, with sex traffickers, with human traffickers, with pornography, and they flood their feeds with pro-suicide content. One of the platforms, Mr. President, even has music to commit suicide by. With their AI chatbots, they sexualize children in role-playing fantasies. With their design features that allow children to share their precise location on a map with any predator who can then go track them down. This abuse of our nation's children has absolutely got to come to an end. This has to stop. These tech companies have to be held to account. And this is why Senator Blumenthal and I have reintroduced the Kids Online Safety Act, which would hold big tech accountable and provide parents with tools, with safeguards, and with transparency to protect their children. The legislation would create a duty of care for online platforms to prevent specific threats to minors, including sexual abuse, illicit drugs, and the promotion of suicide and eating disorders. There's a reason this legislation was overwhelmingly bipartisan and received overwhelming bipartisan support. It passed out of the Senate last year on a 91-3 vote. It is time to pass this bill. When you think about it, Mr. President, in the physical world, we have laws on the books. You cannot endanger children. You cannot cause harm. You cannot sell alcohol and tobacco or expose them to pornography. We as a society have decided you protect children, and the laws that are on the books protect them, and it holds abusers, traffickers, and people that try to sell them products that will harm them. It holds them accountable. But in the virtual space, these tech companies have pushed forward with their armies of lawyers and lobbyists and deep pockets, and they have fought any regulation in the virtual space. Why is that? Because when our children are online, our children are the product. Tech companies see our children as a profit center. It is a way to make a buck, to keep children online and on their phones. Indeed, when some of the mental health studies of our children have looked at how long a teenager spends on their phone every day, 8 hours. 8 hours a day. Doom scrolling, going deeper into holes where they may be getting eating disorder content, pro-suicide content, or possibly even being introduced to a drug dealer, a trafficker, a pedophile. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.